Hi friends, welcome back to Cooking with Banditi. And I know it has been a very long time since I have cooked a meal for you all, and life happens, okay? But I am going to try and get back into the groove of it, and I'm starting today. I'm going to make a down-home Southern inexpensive breakfast meal that my mom used to make. She used to make jack mackerels, grits, and eggs with toast. Today I'm doing some homemade biscuits for you, okay? My jack mackerel can was, let's just say it was outdated, so I'm using a can of salmon to make the croquettes, okay? Ready to get in the kitchen with me and cook? Let's go.
All right, I'm only going to make a small batch of biscuits since it's just my bae and I. We're empty nesters. I use 1 cup of white lily self-rising flour. All right, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of salt and some baking powder. And you'll see me put that in there twice. That's because I'm using my half a teaspoon measurement. Now, here's the key. All right, then you can take a whisk or a fork and make sure you work the baking powder and flour in your flour. Now, here's the key to some delicious homemade buttermilk biscuits. My butter, I always freeze it when I'm making biscuits so it's nice and cold. And I grate it up so that it's evenly distributed within the flour. Then give it a little stir so it's well incorporated into the flour. I made a little well in the middle with the fork, and then I poured in about a 1/3 cup of buttermilk. You may see me add a little bit more later. I'm not real good on measurements. I just go for the feel of it. And all right, from the looks of this, it's a little too dry for me, so I'm going to add some more liquid. I'm actually out of buttermilk because I've been traveling and I haven't had a chance to go grocery shopping. So I'm going to use a 1/3 cup of some whole milk. Add that into it. Now, if you're baking this and you're following along, just go on and use about a 1/2 cup of buttermilk if you want all buttermilk biscuits, or a 1/2 cup of whole milk. And I've also made this with heavy whipping cream. So to me, it really doesn't matter as long as you're using some type of milk. As you can see, I'm out of my white lily flour now, my self-rising. So I'm going to get another bag out because now I think I've added a little bit too much mixture. So it's all about the feel of your dough. It has to feel just right. So I added some more flour. Now I'm going to take some flour and put on the counter. Dump my dough out. Going to work it gently, not too much. Just flipping it over, flipping it over. Now you see that I'm folding it. That's supposed to help me get my layers in my biscuit. And I will do another video just with biscuits for you. Today I decided to do a full meal for you, breakfast, because I've been away for so long. I've missed you, and hopefully you all have missed me. So I thought a welcome back breakfast would be just right for us. All right, I folded it over. I don't have a biscuit cutter, so I'm using a glass. Well, I have an extra large biscuit cutter that I use for making crab cakes, but it's too large for what I want to do. I only want to make about 4 to 5 biscuits since I said it's just the 2 of us in my house today having breakfast. You want to lightly oil a pan. I melted some butter in the oven for my pan, and place your biscuits in the pan. Some people like their biscuits to touch. To me, it doesn't matter. All right, as you can see, they look beautiful. They could have been a little higher. I probably should have added a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda since I mixed the flours, the self-rising, with the regular all-purpose. All right, I'm brushing it with some melted, unsalted butter. And I'm going to wrap this in foil and sit it in the oven to stay warm while I finish up the rest of our breakfast, okay? All right, now we're moving on to the salmon croquettes. And I have a full video. I probably made it a year or two ago. You can look on my channel for that. I'll try and put the link to that one in the description. I actually use fresh salmon in that one, but it doesn't matter. You can use canned salmon or fresh. If you notice, I'm looking at a can. This was of jack mackerel because I had intended on making jack mackerel croquettes, but the can was expired in 2022, so we threw that out, and I went and grabbed this one. The date is good. It's always important to check your dates. So I'm using 1 can of salmon croquettes. It should make about 5 patties depending on the size that I make them. I know you can eat the bones, and I eat the fine ones, but I don't eat that center bone for me. If you want to, you can crush it with a fork. It's good. It has a lot of nutrients in it, but my bae really doesn't like the bones in there. Although you really can't taste it, I remove it just for him. And me, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. All right, I'm making this exactly the way my mom did because this breakfast kind of reminds me of my mom. That's why I'm making it. She used about 1/3 cup of cornmeal, yellow cornmeal, and 1/3 cup of flour to bind her croquettes. Adding a little dash of salt. I'm going to season it with a little Cajun seasoning. My mom used to use Lawry's. I've never purchased Lawry's, so it really doesn't matter. You can season your croquettes with whatever seasonings you have at home. If you notice, I did not put any onions and bell peppers in here. I normally do, but like I said, I haven't been grocery shopping. I don't have any on hand right now. All right, after you've given it a stir, and I see the top to my pepper fell in there, excuse me for that. Add 1 egg, mix it in well. Forgive me for that. But that's the thing, back in the day growing up with my mom, she cooked what she had. And today that's what I'm doing. I'm cooking what I have on hand. So if you're making this, I encourage you to add about maybe 1/4 cup of diced yellow onions, slither of bell peppers, and some green onions, and that's going to add even more flavor. I just don't have any on hand today. I added a little bit of mayonnaise, and that mayonnaise is probably 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise and maybe 1/2 tablespoon of some yellow mustard. Whisk it in with a fork real good. Make sure everything is well incorporated and balanced. And would you believe my bae said he's never had salmon croquettes? I have a little green onion growing in my backyard, so bae went outside and snipped a piece, so I am able to add some green onions. Just a pinch. We don't have that much growing, but to add a little bit of flavor. Take a small handful, roll it in your hand as a patty, pat it. Like I said, 1 can should make about 5. All right. My final touch, this is different from what my mom did. I'm using a little bit of fish fry, some seasoned fish fry, put in a container, and I'm coating my patties in it so it can be nice golden brown when I cook them. Now I got a skillet with some canola oil, and the skillet is nice and hot. That's key. You want to cook your salmon croquettes until they're nice and golden brown. I actually set my timer on my stove because I'm doing several things at once in the kitchen, cleaning as I go, and I don't want to burn them. So I set my timer to 6 minutes. And then after about 6 minutes, I flipped them over and I let them cook for about another 2 minutes until they were brown on that side. So about anywhere from 6 to 8 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. They're beautiful. They smell good. Let's move on to the grits. I used 1 cup of water. I used about a cup of low-fat chicken broth. That's going to give that savory flavor that I like for my grits in the morning. I used 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. Now that the water is nice and hot, I'm going to add a pinch of salt. And I added 1/2 cup of grits. A little bit of whole milk. Let them come to a simmer. And the key with grits, so they aren't lumpy, is to whisk them. Use a whisk. I added some cheddar cheese. Gave it a little stir. Now I'm moving on to my eggs. Hot skillet with the low butter and 1 tablespoon of canola oil. This is 1 egg that I had already whisked in a bowl. Lightly cook it for about a minute. I do have a video on my channel for how I cook eggs. I add season once the egg is almost done. And we're ready to eat.
I can go. All right. All right, friends. It's time to sample this down-home Southern country breakfast. And I have some maple syrup. And I'll be honest, my mom didn't have maple syrup back then. We were a single parent family, so we just had jelly and strawberry or grape. So made this biscuit. It's nice and soft, as you can see. Ooh. See that? And I smell the butter in it. I'm going to put a little bit of this maple syrup on mine. I didn't want jelly. I wanted syrup on mine. Just a little bit. Sometimes we didn't have grits, and my mom would serve us rice with sugar back in the day in the early 70s with croquettes and eggs. Let me take a bite of this for you. I did that. That's good. Okay. I'm going to sample this croquette. I'm going really fast because I know my baby is ready to eat and he's holding the candle for me. My tripod is damaged, so yes, I'm at home, I'm using my hand. If you were eating this in public, use your fork, okay? That is so good. Reminds me of my mom. Delicious. Here's another thing I did different. I put cheese in my grits. My mom never put cheese in her grits. She just made us some good grits. And yes, my mom put sugar in hers. I didn't do that. When I do fish, I don't add sugar to it. This breakfast is hitting. Hit me up in the comments and let me know if your parents ever cooked a meal like this for you when you were growing up, all right? Peace.